slow, Adrian.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Craig, for all the service that you've given to Lubbock and to our state.
Thank you.
This is along the same line as some of these other questions, but I've had kids in private and public school here in Lubbock. I've served on PTA boards for elementary, junior high, and high school. I have been a substitute teacher in the Lubbock Independent School District. And what I've observed is the honors programs are great, but when I would, and it was at all schools, you know, Estacada, Coronado, Monterey, Lubbock High, what I observed was kids could not spell, kids could not complete a sentence, behavior unbelievable. I don't know how the teachers do it. And I don't really think throwing more money at this deal is the answer. Because you look at the way we used to be taught, and we didn't have all these billions and millions of dollars. It starts in the classroom. And when I would have a problem and someone would have to come in, they would not hold the child accountable. They gave them too many chances. And we all know, you know, if you say it once, it ought to happen. And I don't know what the answer is to this, but it's been a real concern of mine for a long time. And, I mean, I don't know.
Discipline is the first answer, without question. And I think that starts with the teacher, and it goes to the principal, and it goes to the school district policy. I believe you have to have discipline in the classroom. Whatever you say, you do it.
Yes. Who backs them?
Absolutely. I think they should be backed. I understand, and I think that's something you've got to take up at the local level, because the state board can't mandate that from that standpoint. I think that's a local control issue that you have got to go to your local school board or administration or principal and say, these are the things that we want. I feel very strongly that discipline is a key to making sure that you learn correctly. I have a daughter teaching now her third year of biology at Monterey, and you know, it's a challenge. And she says it's a challenge, and we talk about that. And she tries to, you know, she's just a little bitty like this, so she look it up, you know, she got to mind me, and she's pretty strong about doing that. So, but you got to have the backing of the people to do it, and I understand.
My wife's been in education for a long time. This is not a new issue, and I totally agree. This is something that, at the local level, you can do a lot to do some of those things, and you got to have support of your local officials to do that. We started a parent, and I believe that part of the thing you have to start at is, or where you have to start with most of this, is do the parents have to learn differently? I mean, if you look at these young people that are probably a little disruptive, their parents may be having the same problem with them at home and may not know how to handle it. When we were in the ECISD, we started a program, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of the program, but what it virtually did was work with parents and young people together after hours to try to work through some of those issues. Now, did it work in every case? No. I think they had about an 80% success rate. But those type of things, 80% is a lot better than 100% not getting anywhere. And so I think those are the things that you have to maybe look at and see if there's ways to do that. And granted, some of those people are not going to sign up for those classes. So I believe it's probably best that you look for programs like that as a local issue.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I work for Literacy Lubbock, and it's
Just
Speak right into it.
we have an adult program there, and we have people that are 18 and 19 years old who come into our office with a diploma and can't read on a second grade level. And I was just wondering what the state board can do for dyslexic people, because most of them are dyslexic, but they were never identified in school.
One of our board members, Tyson Miller out of Dallas, her child is dyslexic. She has a very strong passion for that problem. And we tried to look at that and did when we were establishing the English Language and Arts TEKS a couple of years ago. I will tell you that the way the TEKS were ultimately adopted in ELAR were not as good as I think they could have been. Unfortunately, the work group members, many of them teachers who had great input. Matter of fact, the expert that I appointed, Dr. Paige Ferguson at Texas Tech University, they had some good recommendations that unfortunately got overridden in our final vote. And I think our ELAR could have been better than it was. But it is important. I think also it goes back to how you're teaching students. Some people learn by phonics, some do not. We actually had some presidents of universities and deans of colleges come and talk about you've got to be able to service both needs. Phonics is great. I think it's wonderful. But there are some people and some students that can't learn by phonics, so you have to have the alternative methods. So I think the key here is individuality, making sure that you are addressing the needs of the particular student.
But it's not happening.
And it's up to the, and that's a problem that from the state board, all we can do is set the TEKS, set the guidelines, but ultimately it's going to be up to each district as to how to implement it. And so you have to go back to the local control, and you have to address that at your local school.
Yeah, I think, let me make sure I understand the question. The question is that you had somebody that came into your office that graduated that wasn't identified. Is that correct? Or did they go through the program?
I don't know what they went through in school, but I
Okay.
just don't understand how they can let a child
Right.
go through to 18 or 19 years old and reads on a second grade level.
I'm with you. I don't understand that either because there are ways to do that, testing and other things. And then once again, that's a local issue, but they have to do a better job of picking up on that. I can only talk from the experience I had locally. We had, if a parent was concerned or if a teacher was concerned, they had a test that they tested those young people on. And so that should have identified them and then got them through the program. I would go back to that school district and really try to look at why, for some reason, these young people fell through the system.
I do have a question. I'm not from Lubbock Independent School District. I'm just a student at Texas Tech University, but I think it's nice to have some input from somebody who was just in the system 2 years ago. My school, I was in all AP classes, and I graduated top of my class. And here's the way the tax test worked and the benchmark system worked at our school. The AP kids had to get commended on the tax test. And if they didn't, they were put in tax tutorials classes. The kids who just passed, and the lower part of our class, all they had to do was pass the tax test in order to, and they could stay out of tax tutorials. My question is, what are you going to do to resolve this? The kids that are doing great have to do the best, and the kids that just won't put forth the effort are given all the time in the world. And there's actually, our school puts aside $15,000 worth of incentives to these kids.
I think two things. Number one, in 2011, we go to end of the course exams. I supported that. That was done by the legislature. Senator Seliger introduced the bill. And you'll have end of the course exams, for instance, in physics, chemistry, biology. There'll be 12 end of the course exams. I think, number one, that's a better way than doing the tax test. I understand your problem, and we get that quite a bit, because the advanced student, as you were and are, gets cheated because you don't get as much time as another student, yet you're trying to educate everybody. So we have to be careful how that's done, but I'm hopeful that the end of the course exam will help some in that area, and that it'll make it better for everybody concerned. And we also get away from, you always hear teaching the test, and we can get away from that and get back to the concept of end of the course exam, going through the materials that you learned for the semester.